Hey everybody! This is a video I've put off for a while, but I finally am going to talk all about that time I quit art for 10 years, just about. So I guess that means this is sorta like a storytime video, but with art happening in the background instead of my face. Let's talk about the art super briefly first. You're watching the piece I previewed the sketch and line art for during my Art Nouveau tutorial, but I originally drew it with a very different purpose: to experiment with watercolors. I let the line art on the hair kind of taper off for a reason, and you'll see what that is soon enough. I mean, essentially I just wanted to splatter paint around and potentially make a mess, so her anatomy is indeed a bit wonky. That floating hand makes no physical sense whatsoever, and the lines are thicker than I would usually do to try to achieve a graphic look, and like with all watercolor pieces, nothing really went as planned. I knew I wanted to paint her hair with Rose of Ultramarine because I wanted to play with the separation aspects of that paint and the really cool effects it creates. I couldn't really figure out a color scheme around that though. I decided to scale things back to prove I can create a more balanced color theme instead of just using all the bright colors and hoping it'll look okay in the end. I went with Ultramarine Deep by Holbein for the background, which I created using a salt wash technique that I use way too often. Since I would be using Rose of Ultramarine for the hair, which has ultramarine in it, I didn't worry too much about coloring over the lines, which was really weird for me. And then I kind of got bored with just ultramarine on its own and decided to add lines, except the texture of the salt wash meant they were incredibly messy lines. Okay, so now let's talk about the topic at hand. That time I quit art for 10 years. I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm honestly not, and it's not something I'm proud of. In fact, I'm pretty ashamed, and I regret that it happened. I think that's why it took me so long to talk about it. I mean, I also held off talking about this because I didn't want to turn anyone off from my art and my channel by admitting that I had stopped for any period of time, let alone basically a whole decade. I didn't want people to think I would suddenly stop making videos for this channel, but I've been uploading videos every single Friday since I started back in June 2017, so hopefully I've proven myself by now. When I first started this channel, some of my first videos were flip-throughs of my super old sketchbooks from 2000 to 2004, which are the years from when I was 14 to 18 when I was in high school, because I'm old. Also, I drew a ton then. I went through a lot of sketchbooks. But that's not the point. Those videos don't get a ton of views, which is fine. They're more to document my early art growth, but they're also my earliest and my latest sketchbooks. Latest in the sense they're my last finished sketchbooks, and also some of the last sketchbooks I ever actively drew in. I mean, I did switch to using a lot of like loose paper and cardstock instead of sketchbooks sort of around the time I was 18, so that was also a factor. High school didn't really go according to plan for me. I suffered from severe social anxiety disorder and didn't go to enough classes to always get all my credits, so I did another year. But I attended the alternative high school in my town instead, which was small. By small, I mean my class had maybe 10 people, and none of them really cared about me because the kind of kids who went to the alternative high school had bigger issues, like pregnancy and addiction, than that little goth weirdo in the back of the class. So, kind of ironically though, the alternative high school and the adult high school in my hometown were both in the same building that I had also attended back when I was a kid for primary, grade 1, and grade 2. It was a little weird finishing my school career in the same building I started my school career in. But I did finish, I did graduate high school, and I was going to go to college and become a real artist. My endless drawing was going to amount to something. But because I'm a logical person, I knew art school wasn't for me. It was expensive, and I didn't do that kind of art. I would never be able to pay back the student loans either, so instead, I ended up taking this course called Applied Communication Arts, which is basically a fancy way of saying like a precursor to graphic design. It was a 1-year course. I decided afterwards that I didn't really want to do graphic design. At least, I don't think I did. Like, I didn't want to do the course. I didn't want any more school, I think is essentially what I wanted. So I wanted to move to Halifax, which is the big city in Nova Scotia, and live some kind of bohemian existence with my friend Amy. She worked at a bakery, and it was a city, so there had to be plenty of jobs, right? Ha 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 ha. Oh, baby Lay, how naive you were. I ended up bouncing between a couple of jobs, like at a restaurant and at a call center while I was there, but nothing worked out, and during this time, I barely drew. And it didn't happen suddenly, I just kind of slowly stopped. Looking back, I think I did make the decision to give up on having a creative career the moment I decided not to pursue graphic design any further. I don't know what kind of job I was looking for in Halifax, but I'm sure it wasn't design related. And then the next year I ended up going into office administration, and I eventually ended up moving back to my hometown. And when I was 24, I started working at my current day job, which is a hotel front desk. And it was a couple years ago when I picked up art again, so I basically went 10 years without creating art, without drawing, or even making little doodles. I don't really know why I stopped. I guess it was relationships at the time, or real life getting in the way, or just the stress of being an adult. I didn't have that support system of going to school with my friends and pulling out our matching sketchbooks and drawing during lunch hour. I didn't know there could be an online version of that either. I have had a DeviantArt account for 16 or 17 years and never really had luck with it for at least the past 15. The first couple of years when it was newer and smaller, I did meet a few friends, some friends who I later met in real life even, but it quickly became just way too huge and oversaturated. Not that social media isn't oversaturated, especially sites like Instagram, but I have managed to find some really amazing people in the past year. Having a YouTube channel has also helped because I have deadlines, and I definitely work best under deadlines. Setting a weekly schedule is basically the best thing I could have ever done for my art. Creating art again didn't really happen suddenly with one decision, the same way that stopping didn't really just happen. It just kind of tapered back into my life the same way it went out. I mean, the decision to start this channel didn't even happen all at once. I think the channel was created in January 2016 or something like that, and I didn't start posting until late June of 2017. So, if you've ever looked at any of those old sketchbook videos and thought, dang, Ley really hasn't gotten much better since that, and that was 14 years ago. Yeah, I haven't. I know. It really sucks. But I am trying to make up for lost time. And I'm trying new things, like watercolors, which I definitely never did as a kid. Hopefully you can look at my first video on this channel and look at my work now and also see some kind of improvement. Anyway, I guess that's it for my weird story and the kind of weird art that went with it. I feel it's suitable that a piece where I just splattered paint everywhere and let my brushes do whatever they wanted fits with a story about, well, letting go. Sorry if this was kind of a downer. It's hard not to regret letting such a huge part of my life go for so long, but we gotta move on, right? If you enjoyed this video and want to see more from me, please subscribe. Oh, and liking this video helps me out a ton. Feel free to comment down below. Have you ever quit art before for any period of time? Or have you ever done a completely experimental art piece like the one I did today? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you at my next video. Bye!